How to Draw Cartoons with John-Marc. Hey, it's John-Marc and welcome to my series on teaching you how to draw a cartoon. Today's episode is going to be a real fun one, and I have some neat tricks and techniques to share with you. The first one is going to be a little cartoon fish. That's going to be an interesting lesson. The second one is going to be a sea monster, just as interesting, and tips once again. And the third one is going to be a lighthouse. Once again, more fun tips on that one. So, if you have your paper and pencil, I think we're ready to begin today's lessons. All right, so with today's lesson on this little cartoon fish, I will be sketching on my stylus and I will be using layers. So the first basically what I'm doing is really roughing out the basic shape and form of this little cartoon fish. And feel free to use your imagination as always, but this lesson is going to have a little twist from previous lessons because I'm going to be sharing how I clean it up on another layer, two different layers. And this is something traditionally I'm going to have other lessons sharing that with you, how you might want to do that. So you're not cleaning up on the existing line. I'll share that in moments when you get there. So getting back to the lesson, as you can see, I'm just putting down the basic forms of the fins, the eyes, the mouth, where the location is. Feel free to use your imagination, like I said before, and change the shape of this little cartoon, all to your style as well. And now at this point here, I'm not really worried about how sketchy it is. I don't even need to erase whatsoever because I'm going to come back in that layer and follow with a tighter line. So this is just like a real thumbnail. You can almost consider that really like a real quick thumbnail conceptually. So here are the fins on the bottom and a little fin in the back center there. And there's a little fin here. I'm going to have that rotating. Yeah, that's that fin. Give me that illusion of bending around. All right. And here I go with a little bit more detail in the mouth. Just a little shading here just to help me along. So when I do the clean up version, you'll see exactly. Now, here we begin. As you notice, I have that layer very light. I actually turned the opacity down and I'm on a new layer. Notice how slow I am going with my pen versus previously I was just going really quick. And what's really nice about this one right now is when you're doing traditionally, it's a little harder because you can't go as quick as this for sure. But when you're on the computer now, I can then take another layer and add color to it. So I have my thumbnails on one layer. I have my clean pencils on one layer, and I have the colors on another one. You may even want to go further and actually ink it as well. This is the way that I like to do it. It's not the best way, the right way, the wrong way. It's my choice, but I'm just sharing you one way out of many that you can actually develop. So what I'm creating here is just a real tight line following it up. You may want to at times clean up the pencils. In this case, erase at this spot due to this step here is basically the cleanup stage. Going to make like a little ripple in the fin over there. And if you were doing this traditionally, you may have to have a light box, or if you have a door with a window or a window big enough that you can have two pieces of paper. And like I said, I'm going to share these little tips and techniques in future lessons. I'm actually going to show how you could set it up. But for right now, this is all done on the digital. Kind of gives you the feel of a computer because the pencil that I'm using is kind of like a traditional lead. All right, so I'm just cleaning up the little fin there, shadowing it in there, a little contrast, I should say. All right, that's looking good. Let's get the top fin here. And a little bit more on the side there. And this is there too. At this stage, everything with the transparency doesn't mean I have to follow that one. See how the fin I changed right now? I didn't like how it's cut. I changed the length and I changed the curvature altogether. The thumbnail underneath is just a holding so that I can actually see what I like. And the same thing with the fin here. I changed the curvature with it all together. So for most part, I kept everything looking like the thumbnails, and I can still tweak it. throughout that. Just add a little curl on the top fin there. All right, that's looking good. I like that. And you can see a little cleaning up here and there. And now, you know what? I'm just going to do a quick background, really quick. Even though it's part of that layer for this lesson, I'm just going to say, let's spend some time and just randomly make some seaweed, some coral, or whatever. Let's just simplify, add some more details, or should I say, add some more details to this little picture here. And here's another fun tip too. I'm not changing the layer right now. I'm just working on the clean layer. If I actually made another layer for these backgrounds, I'm not affecting my cleanup lines for this fish. That would be a real good lesson. So that if you don't like what you just were drawing in the background, like the seaweed and the coral here, you can easily just turn it off or throw it away and add another one without have to erase close by the fish that you just happen to be working on. Let's add some little bubbles here and there. Yeah, that's looking nice. I like that. Yeah, okay, pretty much almost done with this one, I think, this little test. So remember the two different layers, and then you can definitely turn that one off afterwards. But right now, let's make sure we sign, date, and share with your family and friends.
Now, wasn't that a fun little cartoon fish? The lesson, what did you learn? Of course, it was done traditionally. No, it was done digitally, but it kind of looked traditionally with the brushstroke technique. And I used layers, and I took my first sketch, that really sketchy, and the second one slower. Future lessons on sharing how to do this traditionally, some tips and techniques. So I hope you enjoy this lesson because the next one is just as interesting. So stay tuned.
And now back to our show.
Now the next lesson is going to be on this little cartoon sea monster. What do I have to share with this one that's unique? It's not flat. I gave some depth in how I actually created the cartoon with the elements in different areas to give that little bit more depth and a little bit uniqueness. So when you're watching this lesson, pay close attention to that as well as your sketching technique. So if you have your paper and pencil, let's begin.
All right, let's begin this fun lesson on this little cartoon sea monster. And as you'll notice, I will be working on my computer once again and sketching with my stylus pencil, the same feel as a traditional. So what I'm doing here with this lesson, I want you to practice and pay attention to not making things flat, but giving some dimensions to it. So in this case, his little body, I'm going to be angling through different perspective viewpoints. So they're not looking like a straight row on a ruler. And of course, feel free to, as always, use your imagination and creativity. You may follow my style, but your style would work perfect for any of my lessons. And you can see the basic shape that I have is very simple. Just think of them like a bunch of like donuts sticking in the water in that case, and just position them differently. And I have, yeah, I'm thinking donuts, can't you tell? And I have my eyes I'm just working on right now. And I just have simple shapes for them, little eyebrows here and there. And you may want to make simpler eyes and just make the pupil and a simple smile. Feel free to be creative in the sense of adding different type of textures to the little character. So he may have like feather or furs or scales or spikes, whatever you can think of. So here on this curvature here, as you can see, I have the middle and I have it rotating over. So you're not going to see all of them. So the rotation, once again, is still not flat. It's kind of like a 3/4 view towards you. So you can see the little spikes that I have here, and then they're just gonna fade off, and you're not gonna really see them in the back because they rotate around. Likewise with this one here, same thing. And very simple. These are like a little flat, but visually when you're looking at them, they give you more of a little curve. So now you can see here. There we go. That's better. How they would look side on. From the top view, it'll look just like a little oval. Getting that done. All right, so let's get the underneath part for this one here. Same thing. So this is like his tail sticking out of the water. And let's get a little bit more detail. So let's get that line. There we go. So I have this secondary line that helps me know I'm guiding. So right where I know all the little spikes are going to be. And then they're going to just like disappear on that side. So you're not going to see them all because of the rotation of the visual on that thing. All right, let's get a little bit more detail and a little darker on that. This is considered, I would say, between step 1 and step 2 a little bit. So I'm working back on the front of the body there, giving it underneath his chin, a little smile, eyes a little bit darker. And when I use my stylus and the same feel when working traditionally, I will also put a lot less pressure when I'm going on the pencil. And sometimes when I go a little heavier, then it gives that look, which I like to practice. I never like to start working too hard on the pencil. So you can kind of see the building stage. I just gave him a little fun little accent on the top of his head there. Now, they could be like little wobbly little elements on his head there. Hey, you know what? I like spots, so I'm going to fill in some spots here and there for him. There we go. Let's get a little small one. And some more over there, yeah. And very easy. And again, this would be really a cool lesson to do when you have multiple styles. So you can use this one as a template, come back and totally change the head, totally change the body shape, but basically reuse the this lesson and create new characters over and over again. All right, getting a little bit more on the little details on the back of the body there, and getting more detail on the little scale, should I say, shading those in right now there, little spikies. All right, and a little bit more on that one that's over there. I like that one. That looks good. Working on that secondary one, shading them in. What color would your character be? So when I'm doing stuff like this, I'm thinking about that at times. Like, is it like turquoise or blue, ice blue, water, and the character could be orange, could be yellow or green. Yeah, you can play definitely around with that. Now, this lesson I'm also going to show you when I clean the character up a little bit more. So before I get to that part, I'm just going to give a little horizon and put some water around his body there. So it gives that, so it doesn't look like he's just sitting in there. Yeah, here we go, little water waves around there. Yeah, because that's the one in the back far bottom left there that's above. All right, the little water waves kind of like rippling around his body. I like that. It's looking good. I like that. A little bit more here and there, lightly doing it. So when I clean it up, I might have it again, like I shared with the fish lesson. I would have another layer on top of this one, so I don't have to erase and just redraw it and clean it up and save it there. All right, so pay attention. So here comes the cleanup version. Here we go, pretty soon. And it's a little bit tighter in that case. And what I did with this then is as you can see, I changed some of the elements on there. I add some scales. I add a little horn at the end, and I gave him some little teeth as well. So this is a cleaner version. As always, make sure you sign, date, and share with your family and friends.
Did you understand what I meant by the different elements with that little cartoon sea monster? That it wasn't flat. I kind of gave his body in different angles and kind of had them coming towards you in different positioning. That was kind of unique. You could have easily make the loops all connected to each other, but I didn't, just to play up with the style. Now, if you enjoy this lesson, the next lesson is going to be just as interesting. So stay tuned.
And now back to our show.
Now this lesson is going to be on a cartoon lighthouse. It's going to be kind of interesting because I'm going to do a little perspective without any horizon line, a 2-point perspective. It's a lighthouse, using your imagination, maybe to your style, or you're going to come back and add some really cute little cartoon characters in this picture. Now that would be a great idea. So if you have your paper and pencil and you're ready to begin, let's start.
All right, now this lesson on the little cartoon lighthouse is going to be another simple but challenging one for sure. I'm going to be quickly working out the basic forms that I have. And right now it's a castle shaped type of a structure on a little island I'm looking at, even though you can say it's like a lighthouse, but I think of it as like an old fashioned castle. And in saying that, it doesn't have to be a lighthouse. It could be an actual castle or a little mysterious, cute little log cabin or a hut. Feel free to explore that at your own time. But right now, just pay attention to this little house here. This is like a two-dimension, as you can see, the side and the front door right there. So this would be considered two-point perspective without using the proper tool. So this is just sketching it out. Lessons on perspective will be coming shortly for sure. The 1 point and 2 point. And now, as you can see here, I'm just very roughly putting out some of the rocks around the top of the lighthouse over here now where the light structure would be. You may even want to practice what a real lighthouse looks like by going to the beach and seeing one and sketching it live. Or if you don't have access to a beach, pick up the internet and type in lighthouses around the world, and you would see some really interesting ones for sure. But this is just a very simple, basic shape one that I have right now. And the textures that you can have on there, they could be made out of brick, they can be made of stone, wood, and that can be at another level all together when you're building that. So I am just about done with the stage one, step one actually, for the pencil lines, and now I'm going to be a little heavier with this step right now. And as you can see here, this is just like a little doorway and a little um, deck in the front there. And it just leads right out to the water, thinking if it gets really high. And just a simple shape structure of an A-frame house. That's the top. As you can see, it looks like letter A, the capital A, that is. They consider it. And here's the inside of the door. All right. And I'm already in my head, I'm thinking about how this could be actually colored in. I think I might turn this one into one of my color lessons, taking this little lighthouse and coloring it in. That'll be a fun one. And here's some rocks gradually up here in the back. So what I'd like to do is to have placement, have some things in the front of the object. In this case, behind the house, you may have something in front. You may add some seashells, some little crabs in there if you want to, some clouds in the background, a little inside window there. Okay, a little shading in there. Let's get the roof, a little bit more shadowing. All right, get the inside. I like that. A little bit more rocks in the front there. Yeah, just get them randomly around there so it kind of feels very in place. Should I say? I'm sorry, I'm thinking at the same time when I'm drawing. And here we go with the other rocks right on the beach, right in the between the sand mound and the water catching over there. And here's the horizon line, the waves that are actually going around this little island. There we go. Another one on the other side. Let's get that a little bit more. I like that. And the secondary. I'm thinking right now, how about making this little cute little sailboat on the far distance? So it's in the far, far, far in the back right now. I like that. That's kind of fun. It could be a toy sailboat if it's really close, or it could be far away visually. That's using your imagination, of course, I always say. And there's the sail, a little bit more on the rocks there. That like that. Yeah, that's better. I like that. That's fun. What would you add different on here, thinking when you're watching this and or you're drawing as I'm working right now? Some clouds, some birds flying in the air, maybe even a kite, maybe a hot air balloon or an airplane flying by. Or you might want to be very creative, have a UFO with a space alien flying by waving at you. Or maybe a fish jumping out of the water. A variety of things for sure you can use your creativity with. And here's the top of the lighthouse. And that top, that's pretty much right where the light would be shining in there. And here's the roof. You can add a flag on there. I don't have the space, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, just like if it was all shingles on the top there. All right, I think that's looking good right now. Let's get a little bit more detail on some of the areas. I like a little shadowing there. Yeah. Let's make it just a little bit darker. The lines again, so they stand out. That's the contrast. And see, again, that's how come I like to go light when I'm sketching and get a little bit heavier and heavier. Because you development and how you actually work with the pencil. You don't always want to start off with the heavy lines. I like that little shadow underneath there. So good. Alright, I'm doing the crosshairs right now, crisscross and X. Yeah, that's good. You know what? Let's add a cloud right here, right now. I like that. Really quick. One in the back, it's high up, and another one on the back side there. All right, I'm done. So make sure we sign and date. As always, share with your family and friends.
Maybe this little cartoon lighthouse was challenging for you. That's okay. Remember, a challenge is always a good thing. But maybe you change it to your style and make it a little bit easier. That's perfectly fine too. What did you learn again? The technique of drawing lightly and go a little bit heavier and heavier on this as you get a little bit more involved in the picture. Now, today's lesson is going to be something I hope you remember with the computer, with the different layer that I had in there, and the little sea monster with the different shapes not always lined up to give it a little creativity with it. And of course, the lighthouse, I want you to really pay attention to that perspective so it's not a flat house. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and future lessons are going to be just as exciting. My website is jmg-studio.biz. As always, have a great day.